because I'll give you information about who's going to read first, etc. Okay, are we good?
Go ahead, Al.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Traveling Mollies. We're here tonight with myself, Al DeGenova, and my co-host, Nina Corwin. Welcome. And tonight, for our regulars and also for our not-so-regulars, our features tonight are Robin Messing and Cornelius Eady. So thank you all for being here.
Great to have you. We're representing the East Coast, the West Coast, and pretty much everything in between.
And all the coasts of Lake Michigan, it turns out. So,
What was that?
and I said in all the coasts of Lake Michigan as well.
Oh, yes, of course, absolutely. So, yeah, we're going to have an unusual feature tonight because we're also going to have some music that Cornelius and Robin have done together. We won't hear them performing it live, but we'll have the recording. So we're just exploiting our technology. And I just can't wait for that. And we usually start the evening with with the two of us hosts reading a poem, and then we go over to the open mic list, and then we head over to the features, after which I get to pick their brains. We'll have a probably lively conversation after that. But Al, you wanted to start, so
Yeah.
go for it.
I will start. Yeah, the tradition of Nina and I starting goes back to when we did this in the real world, and people would sign up for the open mic, but nobody ever put their name in the #1 slot. So Nina and I would always take the first 2 slots. So I'm going to start out with a poem called The Calling and Response, or the Thomas Wolfe Blues. The leaf, the stone, the wall of light, oh lost. Appalachian lullaby bends its melody, whisper-tongued youth with a mountain accent, slow dissonance of Carolina rain, the gutter's heartbeats, leaf, rock, light, unfound resolution, these chords built on damp air and red clay, the long crawl of verdant centuries, a whippoorwill song of leaving, mist falling, sun falling, oh lost. Babbling brook beckons, creek seeps and saunters over roots, streams over sand and sad round rocks. Sun on ripples dances to the bubbling, clear clean lick on meadow cheeks, shimmering, shimmying meanders forever, far near the voice of light, oh lost. Dew soaks into old white socks through holes never mended, the leaves, the clay, the wall of light dimming, the falling mist, oh lost. And yet the cello's stirring, still calling my response.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Nina, your turn.
Yeah, you just made me think about politics.
Oh.
And there was a point during the turn of the century when I thought I didn't have to think about it. And we have to think about it. So the poem's called Telling Time. In 1965, somewhere between a saddle shoe and a penny loafer, a classroom of third graders computes how old they will be in the year 2000. Last night, I dreamed I was 53 and I woke up screaming. Who will do the bridge work on the mouth of 1,000 years? How many pieces of piecework make a sweatshop hour? We open our eyes to find ourselves out the back door of one millennium, at the oven door of another, wondering when our turn will come. Do you believe that biding your time comes at no cost at all? Sometimes I dream my credit cards shovel holes in the earth to bury me. First-year interest rates like oak leaves that offer safe shelter till after a season of spending, the digging begins. I awake to find my IRAs become leg irons, my bank accounts anchors, and managed health insurance an inescapable choke chain. Do you insist there is no price for following? I tell you, there's always somebody counting. I dream an old saxophone stooped with osteoporosis stops me on the road and whispers, if you want to save your shoes, you have to walk through life on your knees. Before long, I find a wealthy woman floundering in overpriced artwork, spattered canvases stretched as far as cerebral will go. And she tells me the candle is lost to its own wick. How many pins will prickle the heads of angels before the coming of a more effective insurrection? Do you believe that keeping your hands clean comes tax-free? Last night, I dreamed that wisdom gnarled me into bonsai, my limbs once reaching their full spread, now twist into branches condensed and autistic. At 6 a.m., I wake to the clatter of dumpsters 4 stories below, the rhythm of workers clearing away our earthly waste. Daily news, a soiled baby on the welcome mat, screaming for a change. All right. Yeah, and now we're paying. So we've got a good-looking open mic tonight, and just for those who have not been here before, which is I think only one person, we ask you to keep yourself to 3 to 4 minutes, and then we'll have time for our conversation. So I'm just trying to get everything done in a full evening to come. So Molly, do you want to start? Molly Sturdivant.
Happy to. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. It's been a minute. I am going to pull my poems up. I usually have them printed because I like reading them off paper. But alas, I'm going to read them off the screen. And give me just a second. Let me mute myself while I parent really.
Molly, do you want us to have somebody else go first?
No, just send a babysitter. We're all good. You ready?
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
So I hope you can hear me okay. I was invited recently to explore all of the contradictions I hold in poetry. So these are 3 poems about contradictions. Here's the first one, a prose poem called My Limerent Object versus the Cat's Toys. My limerent object can never come here. He is too serene. I have no high-quality lamps or heavy frames, no foyer into which a guest might put their coats, no driveway, no one knows why there's always a hanger or a sock on the couch, detritus that washes up everywhere. He can't come over. I cannot exist in any room that contains both him and this mess, specifically the cat's toys, awkward-faced fake my string wads, her favorite plastic bottle cap. If we walk past each other in this room, I will not know what to say. He cannot be confronted with the crumbs in the wood knots of the table or the sound of the toilet's flush. My limerent object wants a deeper conversation. I host him in my maladaptive dreams. Every night I check my phone. My limerent object is quiet sometimes. I fill in those hours planning the long conversations we'll have in a room that will suit him. Cottage ceilings with exposed eaves, art, an open window for fresh winter air, a fire going, the real me. So that's the first one. And here's the second. Presence versus hope. A thing with feathers flies away. Hope is fast, a player, a con. What we need is slow. While trophies mount the shelves of the quick, we can only say we hardly knew them. What we know is slow. It took a long time to drag rocks into art, to arrange stones the size of desire into a temple. We have to befriend what we did today. Errands, nakedness, getting by. What you are is enough. Even small motions go. The gesture of your hands at the sink, water shining, is 100 little baptisms in a day against the dirt of things. That's the victory, or there's none. And the third poem, let's see. Is called Connection versus Screen Time. Bonus points if you can guess the video game that inspired this poem, as video games do. All right. My son got me an emerald. I didn't know how to pick it up. Walk toward it, Mom. I leapt accidentally, so he showed me how to fly. We took our swords and drifted. It seemed like midday. Hey, kid. What? Over a cherry blossom forest, we began to make our descent. Don't worry about the news, that's what. He walked into a lake wearing a suit of armor, swam across, marched up the shore, bonded with a wild dog, and said, "Then you don't worry about it either, Mom." The dog followed him everywhere. Something scary approached and met my kid's sword. It bled out on the ground. Our world was breezy then, room temperature, inventory stocked full, pork chops, book spells, artwork, glass blocks, torch, potion. He rested his real head on my actual shoulder, not knowing it or knowing, somewhere deep inside the self who lives in the world that is hot, bloody, expensive. He nested his head on my bicep until his hair was all pushed up. I breathed him in. He smells like a world where love is, where we get tired, windows wear patterns of blue. Light and I will cut down the scary things, so the texture of earth under his grass-stained hands can sing, thrum, and brush, sweet, alive, body filled with verdant breath of soil, heavy-limbed, in real sleep's shadow peace. Thank you.
I could guess which one that was inspired.
We got to guess. You're going to have to bestow the prize if he is
Okay.
correct. Minecraft.
The guesser is correct.
All right then. Al, if you
Yeah.
don't mind, I'm going to have Brenda read because she's going to have to leave for a moment. So Brenda Cardenas.
Thank you. Thank you, Nina and Bill and Al. Hi, Cornelius. So three short poems, all in some way having to do with aging, at least the first two. The first one's called Give Me the Rubric. Give me the rubric for aging anonymously, electrically as a Jimi Hendrix guitar sparking the next trip. What is my manifest and flight path? Where is my map to the country of spunk? I'll fly low if it means breasts still bounce to ska and the twist squats don't buckle me. If it means I can scissor my hair punk with hot pink lashes, stitch a pearl in my nose, get plastered on possibility, triage the donut gut and glass in my kneecap, wear fire engine heels and never tell nieces and nephews about the Paleolithic blink that was my youth. Never advise them to rule sternly their hearts, clip their caterwauls, hide from this velvet burlap world. Give me a recipe for aging smoothly as bourbon in a charred oak barrel, willowy as the swirl of summer wind that ruffles my curls, kisses the back of my neck, oh beloved ghost, and giggles almost perceptively. And the next one is called Before I Succumb. Retirement has resulted in sweat from too much running round the pen, a pool on my forehead trickling down my nose, stinging my eyes. No spring chicken, I am the hen they will cull from the flock now that I manage only an egg or two. But that's okay, as each day I've greeted morning glories at the fence, flexed my neck like great-grandmother T-Rex, donned her fluorescent pink Quetzal green plumes. The new chicks yip through holes in their shipping box, maws open to raindrops and fingers pinching feed. I feel no filial affection for those bobbleheads, but only an ellipsis separates their querulous lives from mine. I'm on an infinite vacation now and no longer wish to perseverate about the end, that longest of dial tones. So I'll primp, plump my lips, proudly quiver my waddle, and jiggle my big booty before I succumb to the deep fake, let you catch me, before I leave you a crummy quill instead of a ballpoint to write my name. And then lastly, this is called What a Molcajete Holds. Despite my drawers full of knives and spoons, cutting boards, spatulas, ceramic ramekins, when I blend spices, I must place them in her molcajete. Press the 3-generation pestle against cloves to shatter them. Grind comino y ajo in the same circular motion as the tides that softened stones fused to form its mortar. I fold my right hand over hers and hers and hers. There are wrinkles, a reminder that the skin is now loosening from my carpal bones, every piece of me pulled toward earth. Although she stands behind me and another behind her and another, our shadows oscillate on the tile floor, skin smoothed in silhouette, coffee-colored heads blocking light. We have always stood on the verge of fracture, voices flitting like wings away from seams between the stones tight in our palms. But hummingbirds feast every 10 minutes, so we crush the flavors into our membranes, feed one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Al.
Retirement looks good on you. I hope I'm writing as well when I retire. Gives me a reason to stop working. So who should we go? Somebody in the YouTube chat said they can't wait to hear Kevin shine. So Kevin, I'm going to ask you to read for us. You're muted, Kevin.
How's that? I can't hear you now for some reason.
Can you
You're
hear?
okay, Kevin. You're
Now
okay.
I can hear you.
You're good.
Okay, starting from the top. Al, thank you very much. Nina, it's good to see you and everyone on the call. I'm pleased to be part of tonight's open mic, especially because it happens to be very well timed, because my publisher, Kelsey Books, just sent me a proof copy of my second book, The Reunion Float, which soon will be widely available. So anyway, tonight I will be reading 2 poems from my new book. The first was inspired by the difference my wife Debbie makes in my life every day. And the title, All the Difference. Here we go. All the difference. It's one thing to write when you're all alone, when you're aware that no one else is there. But it's something else again to know that someone cares about the writer in the room upstairs. Even though the tapping of the keyboard, the bird calls, the traffic noise outside, the ticking of the clock and dripping of the faucet are the same, the silence differs as if it had a more familiar name. I could crack the door and listen, or lay a hand upon the needlecraft you paused, too tired to lay another stitch, or start the wash both of us forgot to run, much less to set the delicates on gentle rinse. But there's no need. The comfort of your presence makes all the difference. Thank you. My second poem speaks to the experience of writing poetry, which all of us know can be quite a workout. So here is the workout. A poet's fitness comes not from calisthenics, lifting weights or miles of distance run, but from making room in bed for a word or phrase to come. Aroused at such an hour, the poet grumbles, bare feet on cold floor, not quite awake, but on the brink. He fumbles for a pen and paper scrap to catch a metaphor in a trap of ballpoint ink. Back in bed, he thinks, it looks so simple, as if poems were written on demand, or lines would come to mind upon command. Subconsciously, he knows why nothing else compares to the way a poem grows, or how a poet lives by breathing underwater as if the dreams were air. Drowsing off to sleep, the turn of phrase secured, the poet rocks in time, his mind a playground swing. It's good, the dreamer sighs. It seems to sing. Thank you. Just one last comment. Thank you for listening. And please look out for my book, The Reunion Float, wherever fine books are sold.
All right then. Thank you and congratulations on that. How about Tim Brown? Tim from New York City, formerly of Chicago.
Yeah, hi everyone. Nina, Al, thanks again for hosting this and having me tonight. Hi Cornelius. We read together and I like 30 years ago at Guild Complex in Chicago, and I haven't seen you in that time except twice in the last few weeks. I saw you also at Band Cortland Park a few weeks ago with your band. So here we are again. Anyhow, hi Rob, nice to meet you as well. I want to read a couple of poems. This first is about my father. He died nearly 40 years ago now, and I've been kind of spending that entire time trying to make sense of it all. Some weeks I feel more inclined to liking him, and other weeks not so much. This poem is called Salad Dressing. My father drove everyone mad in my family with his habit of pouring the last bit of leftover salad dressing into the same vessel, a quart Miracle Whip jar whose jumbled contents, French and Russian and Roquefort with ranch and blue cheese and green goddess. It was slimy pink in color and almost toxic in chemistry. I choked it down on the iceberg lettuce salads my mother reluctantly served, embarrassed by my father's depression mentality to conserve every ounce. My father drove everyone madder still by his other habit of squeezing flakes and slivers of used up soaps, Dove and Dial, Ivory and Palmolive, Irish Spring, with his powerful tool and die maker hands into a nugget the size of a prize shooter marble of similar hues, white, pink, yellow, green, a sherbet of colors, scented rose and pine, clean and deodorant, molded into a mush ball intended to last one more round of baths. I'll read another poem here. I would say this is a New York poem, not so much because of the geography. You know, it's not set in Brooklyn or the Lower East Side or some crazy place. Rather, it's kind of about the business of New York, which is, of course, itself business. A secret reveals itself only slowly, never suddenly. Their secrets become your secrets if you agree to conspire with them. They want you to join their plots. They want to co-opt you, make you complicit in the bad decisions they have made in life. They want you as their advocate, defense attorney for when their secrets are discovered, regardless of guilt or innocence. Shame is at the heart of their secrets. Shame is the brain. It's the underlying stock for options traded on the secrets exchange. They want you to partner with them and share the risk of exposing the full value of their secrets. Their secrets are a species of risk management. They protect their secret positions, counting on your intimate relations to turn you into an insider trader of their shame. When the secrets shared with you unwind, you are the one left holding the bag. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Glad you're here tonight with us. I'm going to ask Robbie Nestor to come up next. She was the first person to show up for the Zoom portion of the reading. So,
as usual.
Robbie, what do you got?
Okay. Well, I wanted to respond first to Brenda's poem by hauling out an old poem on the same theme. It's called Cooking Your Way Home. Today, while morning light still slants onto the cold tile floor, when the house is quiet, put on some John Prine tunes, lay out ingredients for a recipe you've cut out of the paper every year, but never made. Salmon gefilte fish. At the farmer's market, choose thick bouquets of dill and parsley, woody twigs of thyme. Later, under your knife, their fragrance will bring the market home. Your mother thought that jarred was good enough. You disagree. There's never been a live carp swimming in your bathtub as in your grandmother's. Instead, use a food processor. Boxed matzo meal, not just the brunt of a blunt knife, not even half as sharp as hers. Now, when you're spending so much time alone, It's time to savor the intention, join with generations of women making the same dish for 100 years, dropping soft fistfuls of fish bound with beaten egg into the broth, feather light and sweet. And now for something completely different. Saturday momentum. Too many things I hoped would last forever disappear. Bumblebees fumbling a field of rosemary. The sun breaks through morning fog, a yellow hammer, call of a distant towhee. At the yoga mat, it's the same as any other day. Poses probing the groin's stiff clay. Only words come easily, new leaves on the old eucalyptus. And one last short poem. Boredom. In the living room, all that long, hot August, I whirled the carpet's rings of roses till the beige walls and ceilings tipped and wobbled. The fat brown armchair leered, tufts of stuffing hanging from its arms. The morning stretched before me, and a half a dozen books yawned open on the table. I almost wished to be in school, though I'd been sure in June that whatever lay ahead would be better than those sweaty rooms smelling of paste and chalk. My friends were on vacation with their families at summer camp, leaving me to ride my bike up the avenue, watch a cabbage white light on the clover as waves of heat rose off the pavement. Desire hung heavy over everything. These are the days that I remember now. Dew on the spider's web, fat black clouds, the flash of dry lightning illuminating sky. Thank you.
Thanks, Ravi. Well, let's see. Where did she just disappeared? Lydia, we lost you. So let us instead.
Lydia is there. She's here.
I'm not seeing. Oh, there you are. Okay, Lydia. Why don't you read for us?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here, especially as Cornelius and Robin are the features, and I have a great deal of respect and admiration for each of them. So thank you. Okay, let me find my poem now. I think what I need you to know is just one thing, and that's the word zafacón. Zafacón is a word that came into use when Puerto Ricans started coming here en masse, I guess in the 40s and 50s. By here, I mean to the United States, but specifically New York City. Zafacón is a word that we made up that came from safety can. And safety can was a big steel drum, I guess, used for garbage. But zafacón became, for Puerto Ricans or New Yorkers, a common word to say garbage pail. So that's all that I'd like you to know right now, because you're going to hear it a couple of times. Trapo de hombre. Parece mentira, mija, después de toda esa educación. ¿Quién pensaba que tú, hija mía, te ibas a meter con tal mal ejemplo? ¿Te iba a arrastrar en el fango? ¿Te ibas a ir buscando problema con tal malcriado? Y tan feo también, no tal caracteracho. que ni la mai que lo parió lo soporta. Ay, Dios mío, nena. ¿Y por qué fue eso? ¿Buscando venganza? ¿Y qué yo te hice? ¿Ah? ¿Por qué fuiste a sacar de algún zafacón ese trapo de hombre? Translation: raggedy ass man. It's a shame, girl, after all that studying, all those degrees. Who would think that you, daughter dearie, that you would let yourself fall, get into it with such an example, that you would drag yourself through the mud and bring us such disgrace, cause us such problems? It's great, super high. That's really tacky. You know that I'm in my own place. Then dry up, literally very dry. That who would think that you'd go looking for such precious problems with such a maleducao, and so homely too. Not even his mother who bore him can stomach him. And why do you owe me such vengeance? What did I do? Ay, Dios mío, my girl, why did you go looking in that zafacón for that raggedy ass man? Thank you. That's it. That's my one poem.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
enjoyed
you.
that. And thanks
Thank you.
for reading it in both languages.
Thank
I
you.
love the music of Spanish. You can really hear the music of it. Who should we have next? Carlos, we haven't seen you in a while. You ready? Carlos Compian.
Okay, you can hear me? Traveling Molly's, Nina Corwin, Bill and Al DeGenova. Thank you guys for keeping it going all these years, all this time, bringing us new talent from all over. Cornelius, Robin, and Brenda, three terrific poets that you have. Brenda, of course, was one of our readers, but you featured her just recently. Guys, the name of this poem is, first of all, this is a light kind of summer poem. Some people say, Cumpian, you haven't done one of these for a while. And anyway, in Spanish, for those of you who want to hear the title in Spanish, nobody's asking, maybe Lydia is. This is called Las Gallinas Clandestinas de Chicago, but it's really in English, Chicago's Hidden Chickens. My neighbor kept a chicken coop hidden under his conifer shade and shadow. His chickens were not trained to cluck. Sometimes they did, and sometimes they didn't. They laid invisible eggs, never drawing attention. The chicken coop was better built than the owner's own home made 106 years ago, when there was a farm across the road no chickens ever dared to cross. Being Chicago chickens, they joined a union and had psychic abilities, and they pleased their bearded keeper, an Icelandic giant of a man, and his Polish girlfriend. The couple feared their neighbors would report them if the chickens ever sang clucking classics, performed in butcher shops and greasy BBQ kitchens. The chickens were taught the secret of long life was oming, and not having a rooster was law. These chickens ate free-range worms and bugs, and each evening slept from 7 p.m. until morning. The giant chicken guy and his lady refused to give names to the chickens because each winter they followed recipes for fixing chicken, boiled, roasted, or deep fried in fat and garlic butter. That's it. Y'all have a good summer. Thank you.
So we're gonna wrap up the open mic with our what do you call those hitters? The cleanup hitter, right? Pablo Otavalo.
All right. I hope I can clean this up. I have three for you, and so I'll try to be efficient. The first one is Caravaggio, Michelangelo Merisi de Caravaggio. Cutthroat, villain, body carved in light through a valley of darkness, the gods and us and saints, sickly and angry, and Christ himself a body, vagrant your thoughts and vagrant your talents, ripe as the fruit on the table, and caught, about to decay, musicians and a fly on a melon, a dry flower and a golden light. Caravaggio castrated Tomasoni with his sword before deliberately killing him. Unless I see the marks of the nails in his hands, I will not believe it. Dimly lit rooms, his face disfigured after the night he attacked in Malta, a saint beheaded. He had a fever on the day he died, cut through for Tomasoni in an alley in Naples. The announcement from Rome is that you died of a fever and not in an alley, not for love. This is You Wake Up for Gregor Samsa. You wake up and one day you are a vermin, and your brother a vermin, and your son is a vermin, and he loses his job and can't get out of bed, and you wake up walking across a desert, a checkpoint for vermin. A dangerous fool reads a book to a crowd that you are snakes, that your family should die in a river or under a house, or they say you are rats. You wake up stateless against a wall or a fence, and they throw apples at your wounded body while it's a nice day. And this is my last one. When they deport me, may my nephew not see it. May the sky not break with the lightning of his cries. May my mother not fall to the floor like an empty suitcase. When they deport me, I don't want the indignity of their orders, their threats, their official dehumanization, my neck in their trap, my snout shut. I don't want their labyrinth of absurdities, the legal theater reliving the pages of Kafka, the trial without trial. When they deport me, I don't want to love a place that throws me away. I don't want to see an elm with the leaves between green and gold, or the lake at night with the lights of the city that mix like a net of stars. Thank you.
Well, that open mic was just hot. One of the people is put a little fire in her comments in the chat. We saw all kinds of like things floating up in people's screens, so you guys all killed it. I don't know if that would be like cleaning up or burning it down, but that's a good way to move on to our features tonight. Robin Mess.
Nina, should we do a quick commercial?
Oh yeah, please, please,
I
please.
want to, well, first say hello to everybody who's on YouTube right now, who's watching. So just so everyone knows, here in the Zoom room where the reading's happening, that we do have an audience out on YouTube, and we will also leave the recording of the reading up on YouTube for people to watch again. But we, when we were in the real world, we would always pass a hat for our features, and just to show our appreciation. So now we pass the hat with a virtual donation link, and that link, you can go there and leave a couple bucks. It's just a way to say thank you to our features. And when you go there, it'll say After Hours Press, which is the press that I run, but all the donations that we take go to our get split between our features. So that's it for the commercial. Nina, back to you.
Yeah, how did I miss all that? I don't know. I'm always remembering that, but it was something you made me think of. But I do want to say that next month, we'll have Michael Anania, and I'll have the other name for you sometime in the midst before we're finished tonight. But it's so cool that we have Robin and Cornelius together, because they have performed together musically / poetically, and you're going to get a chance to hear that in between features. So without further ado, and by the way, Robin and Cornelius, if you want to drop links to your books or to your website in the chat, then Al or Bill will get it to the YouTube chat. Robin Messing's bio doesn't include some of her bigger accomplishments, but she shares a number of awards and prizes that are more recent in the course of a long writing career. Her poem Backseat won the 2022 Zoetic Poetry Prize. A selection of her poems won the 2023 Claire Keyes Poetry Prize. Her poem Flame was a finalist for the 2024 Watchword Poetry Prize. Her essay, Writing a Redeemable Man, sounds interesting, was a finalist for the 2021 Gulf Coast Nonfiction Prize. Shortlisted finalist for the 2022 Blue Mesa Review Nonfiction Prize, and there's an honorable mention for the New Millennium Writing Award. They're still around. I didn't realize that. And we had them, Maxine Chernoff and Paul Hoover. That is their journal, right? Robin? No? Anyway.
Actually not sure.
Oh, okay. But we had them with us, and her short story, Robin's short story Drive-By, was a Pushcart Prize nominee, and she's a recipient of fellowships from the Robert Rauschenberg Foundation and Yaddo. That's interesting, the Rauschenberg one. But let's hear it.
Thank you so much, and it's so good to be here. Thank you all. I'm going to be reading poems from a manuscript of mine that I'm sending around, and it's called The Icy Couch. That's the title of the manuscript. Yeah. So first one is First Sex. Cuddled under a pine, it wasn't the boy I wanted, but needled earth, weighted limbs, roots, unshakable sway, to spoil the spoil that had made my body a stranger. That night, we strung plastic around the branches to keep dry. I remember the sound of rain, not the entrance I'd begged for, that had little to do with me. Maybe I used the boy, or maybe he used me. You must be good. You must be the animal who is never thirsty. You must sense the split even before the horse. You must trap your tongue in a grave of books. You must be the valley that trumpets the cold. You must listen to the leaves before they spark. You must not frighten the dresses as they shield the song of breasts. You must not breathe near the wolf, lest he smell your fingers. You must play only 5 notes, so as not to appear larger than the moon. You must flatten the farmhouse of your hips so your mother may flourish. You must tether yourself to land, though bells burst from your lit window. You must be the shepherd girl, herding winds into paper ducts. You must be a bed, a plum, a stone, a mist, never a belly or a mouth. Sister, boys battle the father who soldiers our hearts, then move into locked rooms, get hard, point toward what they must possess. I stay put, wedded to my mother's arresting breasts. Boys shift stiffly from left to right, never kiss each other, will fall if you blow their gauzy curtains, but who knew how foreign they were to themselves? Who knew how much their bluster was a whirling top, turning on itself? I believed in the bulge of Marlboro packs stuffed under t-shirt sleeves, these boys with quick words and fists, with boasts and fast bikes, who unloaded their anguish on my baby fat, because boys get girls by bullying their bodies, a way to shake the crush of feeling small. They kept killing the girl in them. I'm going to read 2 poems that are part of a whole section in the middle of this manuscript that are persona poems, and they're called Exile and Return. They're parallel poems. The exile poem is an exiled part of a self that becomes exiled because of burdens from early childhood trauma. And the return is that same part when it gets witnessed and becomes integrated back into the person. So, exile. Starving as a windless door, a fence at my border. I need nothing more than a sweet morsel to soldier my suffering. My pelvis is a stone stretched thin. The height of attainment is weightlessness. Because womanhood is a ravageable abundance, my hips have resisted their sensual habits. I'm not a ship going down, but a levitation, an absence that cannot be harmed. I'll never lick a spoon or be led to my death by sensation. I trace my bones' crushed hunger with one finger, and no one, not even you, can make me consume anything that proves me human. And so the parallel poem begins with the last line of the exile poem. So return. Anything that proves me human is a reminder that I survived a long ruin, not all mine. What I did to unknow it is a miracle of muscle. Even the Buddha believed self-mortification could remake him. I praise the body that survived my handcuffs. Desire bursts from the sanctuary that waited for me to grow strong enough to kneel. I'm full of the world's lush pleasures, melons, moonlight, rivers wet with arousal, renunciation remade into loving restraint. I eat what harmed me and spin rituals of faith from my sexual cries. My only control is kindness, a rider through chaos and calm. This is back seat. There's something about the back seat of a car I will try to explain, not just the obstructed forward-looking view or the front seat that slides toward my feet at the whim of the driver, cabbie or daughter, friend or father, already barriers to freedom, but the driver's head, a full darkened moon between me and the windshield, potholes and humps I never see coming until they rattle me like a pinball in that game I played as a kid. The metal spring sprung to launch the ball around a curve and into a maze. Yes, that was me. In the chastity of childhood, my mother's shotgun gripping the dashboard, bracing for the danger she would perpetrate first. My father passing cars without eyeballing the side view. Honks and glares, his cheerless scorn, clueless. When you enter the world, you expect a deference to the rules. I tell you, the whole thing was an obstruction. I was born in the back seat, which means I couldn't see what was in front of me and never thought to turn back to watch the caravan of beat-up rubbernecking cars. I was frozen in the rear of an untold tale, a driverless moving vehicle. See what I mean? The back seat is a crime scene because once my brother, high on something he'd sniffed, went wild on a driver he thought cut him off, and he stomped onto the blacktop and kicked the man's sedan with his cowboy boot. There I was in the back, not thinking about what had happened to all of us before and after our entrance on Earth. I was only a set of flashes, hazards, directionals, brights, parking lights, the oncoming glare that every driver turns away from with a handy visor. Or that time my mother's drunk lover's fender struck the bridge not once, but 3 times, shuttering the chassis, miraculously landing us in one piece on the far side of the river, mute, as lonely as the day that drunk pulled a gun on her. Soon I didn't need a back seat. I could shake or near faint anywhere. For God's sakes, I came to think the whole world was a back seat, and not even making love upon it was a cure for helplessness. All this to explain why I must be the driver. Hands on the wheel, no one will ever touch. Let's take a drink. Sucking. Maybe I was 5, cross-legged on my bed, a long backyard I could watch from the windows, my big brother 3 feet from me, in my mouth my thumb, sucking for sustenance I could only find in myself. I'll paint it with iodine, my brother threatened, if you don't stop sucking. But I've never stopped wanting something to enter me and end the panic, like the boy on the living room rug, years of fear later, when my mother slept. It wasn't pleasure, but a plea and an agreement, how I thought love was made, my own desire, a kept secret for fear of punishment. We all have our subway poems in New York, and this is one of them. Flame. Tuesday afternoon on the B train to Brooklyn, a track I've traveled since youth, that long ago time when little could startle me. I spot a man several seats over, run a lighter flame up and down his hairless arm. And having spent my early life forced to look at a mother's bare body and its torment, I watched for a while before I remembered the present, when fear set in and I moved a dozen seats beyond him, the distance in which he no longer frightened me. From there, I could see the many times I tried to warn myself something like that. And this is called Having a Walk with You, after Frank O'Hara and for my daughter, Emma. Having a walk with you marked a sharp turn for me, like winter to spring, or the hallmark of air conditioning. I grew up on box fans, ices, cold showers, those first steps of yours across the living room floor, finding your legs generative, joyful, shifted a secret belief in my infertility. What I mean is the ground of weeds where I imagined nothing could grow. That's an old story, not the newness of every step with you. Left my wife with 48 kids, left left, right in the middle of the kitchen floor, right, right. Misogynist ditty my mother taught me that you and I prance to unknowingly because it's taken myriad sufferings to spot the dung I'm walking in or running from. Repetition, I mean marriage to a form of violence nearly impossible to forfeit. And you had to follow me back and forth, the plank you crossed alone. Or was it a stroll over callousing coals, a clattering always behind you? Or that time I met you at primary school, you went to the yard to meet your father and you walked away with him. By mistake, I was left holding your doll, like reading that last mother scene from Morrison's A Mercy that choked me. And isn't that what we've often done? Received an unspeakable thing when you teared up at a Don Byron concert and maybe envisioned the artist you'd become. What I'm really trying to say is your birth was a shoot where courage surfaced, belly laughs, darkened window dances, ledge walks, slumber talks, and the countless ways you've made love visible, innocent, buoyant, not feared or forfeited. I'm circling here like a planet around a sun, the revolution barely sensed, though we might perish from its absence, yet know that words seldom fail me, my stumbling a tribute, my nearness infinite. Hair in my hair, hair in my hair, tongue on my tongue. We shook the snow and the earth spun twice, pressed like wind in a book. Dirt stopped wandering, wide roads narrowed in your mounting. By the love of your body, I saw my emptiness, a locomotive of hardship, a pure valley from panting. I came back and back to kill the cleaving drunk on your soup of cracked stones. The ecstatic rain, the iron, and the cold shiver. Again and again, wanting to leave the body through the body. Lust that is terror trying to dance. I used to be perfect after Ocean Vuong. I used to be perfect, now I can barely sleep. I used to walk the streets wishing someone would revive me. Maybe I hoped for an explosion, but it was always a reenactment. I used to feel rupture as romance gone bad and bad again and bad again. I waited in silence to uncover who is to blame. No name surfaced, only storm. Without a story, you can only last so long. On the eve of his enlightenment, Mara asked the Buddha, by whose authority do you claim this supposed enlightenment? The Buddha answered by touching the earth, perhaps because he had no mother. I used to be a girl disguised as a woman, laughter confined to a drinking glass, saliva sour, breast refusing to play along. I used to be old when I was young, with scant future beside service. I recall that long internment every time I come. On the bus to DC for a school trip when I was 13, my friend Larry turned on his transistor radio to static, the whole way static. He'd turn up the sound and open his mouth as if the static came from his body. We laughed every time, and the laughter helped me remember that I was real like him, ineffable and absurd. An ailanthus once grew through the hollow pole of a stop sign. Its leaves burst above the red metal top. Even impeded trees grow into nurturers, roots a lifeline of sugar. Did you know that bats can hear shapes and plants eat light? The matter that I am magic, morphed for endurance. I used to be a runt, now I'm a mother. I was born into mourning, now I've lost my fear of a fight. I used to be perfect, now I'm a wreck. There are holes where there used to be stones. Light seeps through, and an infant's terror shatters the air. A double helix, I honor and honor and honor. Thank you.
Robin.
Yes.
There you are. So that's where your feature ends, right? Or where you're going to be. All right. And now, So we've got these two songs. Would you care to introduce one of the two? Do you know which ones we've got?
Cornelius, maybe you should do that. Do you want to do that?
Well, before you do then, I was going to actually ask each of you to do one, but that's fine. Do you want to do that? We have not done this before, audience. Before we do, I want to say that your stuff is so powerful, psychologically rich and gorgeous. And Cornelius, thank you so much for telling us about her.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Robin, you want to do the first one, I'll do the second?
Okay.
I think they're going to do the Sterling Brown poem.
First.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can talk a little bit about the Sterling Brown Project. You can go to the sterlingbrownproject.com where you can find the whole album that Cornelius and I and the whole of Rough Magic, amazing musicians, some of whom were my family, made this beautiful album that Cornelius set the poems of Sterling A. Brown, the wonderful poet, to music. And we're going to play one of those tunes to a poem called Mame Ruth. That's a song that I'm a soloist on. Yeah.
All right. Hit it.
Might as well bury her and bury her deep. Might as well put her where she can sleep. Might as well lay her out in her shiny black, and for the love of God, not wish her back. Mom Sal may miss her, Mom Sal she only, with no one now to stop. Sal may be lonely, nobody else there is who will be caring how rocky was the road for her wayfaring. Nobody be heeding in cabin or town that she is lying here in her best gown. Boy that she suckled, how should he know, hiding in city holes, sniffling the snow. And how could the news pierce Harlan's din to reach her baby gal, sodden with gin? To cut her withered heart, they cannot come again, preach her the lies about Jordan and then. Might as well drop her deep in the ground, might as well pray for her that she sleeps sound.
Cornelius.
Sorry about that.
Yes. No problem there.
Yeah, no. Tell us about it.
Okay, well, the second song is called Twilight is the Hour. And whoa. And actually the song is about an incident. I was at a reading in Bryant Park right after Trayvon Martin had been killed. I wasn't reading, but I was there, and all the poets happened to decided. I mean, I'm sure that they didn't even talk among themselves. Most of them had something to say about Trayvon. Either they had written a poem for that evening, or had something that was close to what had happened to him. And I was listening to that, and it was around twilight, and as it was getting dark, the mercury lamps in Bryant Park started to come up, and they looked like fireflies to me. So I went home and wrote the song with Robin sing so wonderfully with me. And I think this is really part of the reason I wanted to do this, because the fun of not only reading with her, but also sharing the music that we've done together. As you can see, she's a fantastic singer on top of everything else, right? Right. Okay, so this is Twilight is the Hour.
Twilight is the hour of the motherless child. Twilight is the hour of the motherless child. Another man gone down that lonesome mile. Twilight is the hour. The lamps in Bryant Park glow like fireflies. The wind floats under the trees. A group of poets sing the blues. They're filling the space where you ought to be. Twilight is the hour of the motherless child. Twilight is the hour of the motherless child. Another man gone down that lonesome mile. Twilight is the hour. There's a tongue we use to let things go. There's a song that we shake at danger. There's a way to wash your body down. Even if he's a stranger. Twilight is the hour of the motherless child. Twilight is the hour of the motherless child. Another man gone down that lonesome mile. Twilight is the hour. There are words to spin to shadow words, a prayer to unjumble the mad universe. The poets breathe Trayvon into the wind. It could happen to you like it happened to him. Twilight is the hour of the motherless child. Twilight is the hour of the motherless child. Another man gone down that lonesome mile. Twilight is the hour. Twilight is the hour.
Wow. I feel like I'm listening to Fleetwood Mac or Fairport Convention.
Thank you, guys. That was really great. That was a special treat. Thank you.
Gorgeous. I do want to ask people listening on YouTube to drop a hello into the chat, and just to let the features know who's out there, or make some sort of comment, and we'll share them at some point. I do want to, okay, so I am going to pick and choose from a very long bio from
God, yeah.
And it's long because he's done so much, not just in his own writing, and as we're hearing his music, but also did you know, if you're out there, you probably do know that Cornelius was a co-founder of Cave Canem, and there's so many, we like to think about having some sort of legacy, and that's an amazing, amazing legacy to the writing world and beyond. Poet, playwright, songwriter, professor of English, and John Hodges Chair of Excellence at the University of Tennessee. He served as the interim director at Poets House, has a bunch of collections, Victims of the Latest Dance Craze, The Gathering of My Name, nominated for a Pulitzer in '92, Brutal Imagination, Hard-Headed Weather. And he wrote the libretto to Deidre Murray's opera, Running Man. He's got he was a finalist for the Pulitzer in theater. We don't see much of that. And also a verse play of Brutal Imagination, which won the Oppenheimer Prize in 2001. His awards include fellowships from the NEA, the Guggenheim, the Rockefeller Lifetime Achievement Awards in Poetry from the Poetry Foundation, National Book Foundation, and the Lannan Foundation. That's not enough. What we need now is the poetry and the poet. That's what we want.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that's too long of an introduction, but thank you for reading some of it. All this always indicates to me is that I'm just old, But let me start with really thank you for inviting us to come and read together. And really, it's a real joy to be able to do this and also to do this with Robin. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to start with, since we mentioned Cave Canem, I'm going to start with a poem to Toy Derricott on her 80th birthday. Toy Derricott, poet, on her 80th birthday. So let's talk about beauty. And when we do, let's not forget that it's not always an easy word. A Black woman has to tussle sometimes to invite it to land without bruises and then to hold it fast. Try that for 80 years, fellas. Let's see if you can. I remember my mother had a gold tooth. That was her style. When you gazed upon it, you wondered about the story that put it there, that moment when something stirred up and the dentist had to give her what she wanted. So when she smiled, you saw that first, an upper molar framed to announce you were dealing with something. Maybe that's what it takes to survive the male gaze, the white gaze, the family side eyes. Or maybe that tooth was a promise a woman makes only to herself, that there's a door marked something better in her, something with a golden knob. All I know is I watched my friend Toy sitting, 80 years old, in a chair, the beauty of my mama's tooth. Oh, her eyes are slow fire now, and she reads with joy. I'm going to read a cycle that I'm working on about the blues musician and bass player and composer Willie Dixon. A lot of people don't know him, but they know him. If you listen to people like Muddy Waters and you hear things like Hoochie Coochie Man, that's Willie Dixon. Muddy is famous for the song, but Willie wrote the song. And one of the things I know about Willie was that he was a conscientious objector in the Second World War. He actually went to jail rather than serve in the military. And as I started to explore that story, I started to get more about his own biography, and maybe a little bit of a backstory about why he, in the end, decided not to serve a country that was deeply into the Jim Crow mentality at that time. So I'm not done with the cycle. I'm going to read some poems from the cycle. This is called the ballad cycle. Poetry cycle is called the Ballad of Willie Dixon. Willie Dixon is 12 years old when he's raped by a white female guard at a prison farm. This is in Mississippi, and for a while, he believes this is why you must be afraid of women. They will point a finger at you, the catch of the day. This is the South of the 1920s, and if you're caught, as Willie was caught, for doing what doesn't matter, you will be led, pulled to a shed. I want that N-word is your name, and she is a foul feast where she lays your head, your tongue which cannot ask for anything, even air, this table of hair you cannot refuse. For as long as this takes, she owns your mouth, your lips. This is your work for the day, something it seems only a black boy can do. Convenience. Willie Dixon was 13 years old when he and his buddy, Shadrick, landed at Allen Farm. They tried to hobo out of Mississippi. Mississippi didn't want them, but didn't want them to go. Caught them as they were changing trains. Judge gave them 60 days on a work farm. How does that sound? When they got to the gate, they got plucked like two dumb hens. How does that sound? Hey, Willie, how does your leg like them irons on your ankle? Hey, Shadrick, don't you wish something had changed your mind? How does that sound? Took them to a shack, tar roof and chicken wire, slept on the shit-blessed floor, and when that evil sun come up, Cotton's waiting to bleed their baby fingers. Cottons want to salt their nappy heads. How does that sound? They thought they were headed for Chicago, but Mississippi said, your mama can't help you. Your daddy's in a camp down the road. And that sound you hear, the way we let the old cons sing after work, that shit they growl to the rhythm of their chains, that's the trick of living at our convenience. 60 days. An old convict caught young Willie Dixon counting down his 60-day sentence on Allen Farm in Mississippi. Man, how he laughed. Dixon, he said, the fields ain't picked, and after that, they'll get you to drain the swamp, and after that, there's a pick and a shovel waiting to marry your ass, and after that, till your heart stalls, till your brain goofs, till your breath tatters, till your dick forgets women, till the day you forget how to address the captain, till your foot pisses off a cottonmouth, till your days shrivel. Then the cooling board and the glory gates and a fresh man in your bunk. Black Annie. Shedwick and me, Willie Dixon, Captain made us bury this old black guy who used to be a preacher, because I saw the guards beat him to death over what? On Allen Farm, everybody know. They don't need no reason. What you looking at, boy, said the captain, and I knew I was cooked, because he was swinging Black Annie, that whip that whooped down so many of us, that thick leather strap, glass and bottle cap sprinkled in to kiss us good, as if his fists weren't enough. Now it was my time. Wished I lived in a world where I could strike back. Wish I lived in a state where a man like that can't be a man like that. Captain thought I'd seen too much. Or Captain did a quick inventory, saw that me and Annie hadn't been properly introduced yet. Or maybe he was just in the mood. Ain't like lightning got to explain itself to a tree. This scar across my cheek, That was for my eyes, watching that poor man as he Jesus and mama cried his last, a rabbit being shook in a coyote's jaw. That was my apology to the captain. The mule. Willie Dixon left Allen Prison Farm on a mule. He was hauling water when he decided to stop hauling water. Willie Dixon saw that no one was studying that mule. Sometimes luck gives you a ride instead of a kick. Took that mule down the road. Didn't know how long till they missed the mule. Didn't know how long till they missed the man. This took care of a few things weighing on Willie's mind. Like, was he going to make 14 years old? Like, was he ever going to live to see Chicago, which he knew was a level light city? Must have been hip to ride away from the fine print of being a Negro in Mississippi. Must have felt wild to travel a bit on the back of things going your way. Old black woman told Willie, if you stick to the trees, the captain and his men can't be satisfied. Willie stuck to the trees. And the blues gave Willie the strength to tug a stomach mule across the Yazoo River. And the blues set his plate with raw potatoes and crayfish for a week. Willie rode those leaving blues from the back of the mule to a hobo boxcar outside Memphis. When he hit Chicago, he wasn't losing. I'll read. Hold on, just I'll read two more, maybe.
Yep, sounds
Okay.
great.
This is about a black theater in my hometown of Rochester, New York, and also about it was one of my favorite and also one of my favorite horror movies. Me and my sister's favorite horror movie, The Tingler, which had Vincent Price. It'll be described in the poem. But the guy the producer had this really hokey way of doing something that would be like a 3D effect in the movie. Anyway, the racist bone. I know this to be a real thing because when I was a kid, my big sister took me to the Capitol Theater in my hometown of Rochester, New York. And there was a movie that afternoon, The Tingler, which starred Vincent Price. And what I remember best about the film was that it had this extra insect-like gland that we all appeared to have been born with, but nobody but sci-fi movie scientists knew about. If it wasn't properly fed, it would crawl up your leg and choke you to death with its claws. Your only hope was, if you saw it coming and knew what it was, you could scream loud, which we did when it crawled across the screen. Then the lights blacked out and Vincent Price shouted it had skittered off the screen hungry, which it hadn't. The Capitol was the black movie house, 25 cents a seat, the last drop of profit squeezed from the theatrical run. No need to pull Mr. Castle's hokey string and rubber model down the aisle for the likes of us. In our heads, the tingler scurried, our darkest screams, the horror we know but won't talk about, from the mouth of the corpse like a weevil looking for a home. So many characters perished in that movie. They never believed they had it in them until those pinchers closed. The Second Amendment. Driving out to Long Island over the Williamsburg, The Second Amendment. Driving out to Long Island over the Williamsburg Bridge, I sparked the young white men on the rooftop. As a bottleneck, as the ribbon of feeder lanes merge and the boys on the roof laugh, One of them cradles a mock rifle. Another cocks his thumb and forefinger into a pistol. The way of cowboys and Indians, the way of kids, wishes, whistling, aimed, and fired. The kid with a jeep, the driver with the dreads, the driver with the darkest skin, burst water balloon, hacked limb, fucked up puppet cut free. The boys are not quite ready. This is not the day after the dress rehearsal, the day someone regrets putting on a bright hat or zigs instead of zags, or wisely detours the parade or street fair, then wishes they could drive the afternoon back to its tame beginnings and choose again. This is the day we will ride spotless through their blank mercy. Thank you.
So wonderful, so wonderful.
Nina?
Where to start? All
Nina,
of you.
Nina, before we go on,
Yes.
of course, that was wonderful, but we have a bunch of people on YouTube who would like to say hello. So unfortunately, my Google just crashed. So go ahead, and I'll be back in like 10 seconds.
I can, Al, if you want, I can read it if you want.
Yeah, would you just say the
Sure.
names of the folks who
Sure.
are saying hi?
Yeah, Joanna Ambridge, Whit Waltman, Emma Alabaster,
Emma.
Glennis.
Hi, Emma.
Glennis Redman,
Oh,
Sarah Micklem,
That's right.
Kathleen O'Donnell.
Oh, Kath. Oh my God, KOD. Oh,
I think that's it.
okay. I want to mention something that those two songs that you heard. The bass player on both of those songs is her daughter, Emma Alabaster. So just so we.
very cool. Very cool. So Bill is going to set us up by pinning the three of us, you and Cornelius, Robin, and myself, so everyone can see us talking to each other, etc. Let's see. There we go. So you guys were wonderful. If people on Zoom and YouTube want to give another round of applause, even if they can't hear it. Isn't it amazing that even through Zoom, I think you can feel the love? So, I wanted also to mention to the audience that next month we'll have Michael Anania and Cynthia Manick, which is not spelled Manic, it's got a K at the end of it. I have so many things I'd love to talk about, and we'll have time for them. Because the two of you, well, first of all, how did the two of you meet? What?
Oh, wow.
Wow, we've known each other forever. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really. I don't know exactly the first time we met, but I'm friends with her cousin Shelley Messing, and I think Shelley and I did a show on WBAI back in the early 80s, 70s, right, in the 70s, yeah, right, called Writer's Block, and I think that just hanging out with Shelley somehow eventually our circles cross. So, but I don't remember exactly the first time I met Robin, though.
Yeah, but we were in our 20s, I think.
Yes, we were in our 20s, yes.
With long careers in creativity, writing, music, whatever, sometimes we forget, and nobody's making a deal out of who we were back then. So I'd like to ask you each, what is one of the coolest experiences that you had in, say, the first 10 years of being actively creative, whether it was a mentor or a particular kind of, well, whatever.
Robin? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's easy for me in a way. I was in my early 20s. I took a bus to Boulder, Colorado, and I studied with Allen Ginsberg. And I wound up working for him, typing his journals, and he became a mentor for a while, and it was really transformative for me to, be that close to such an icon who,
Yeah,
told me I could do this. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I would say that's it for me.
I had a homeroom teacher in Rochester, New York, who I just saw a few weeks ago. She's living in Nova Scotia now, and we've been keeping in contact over the last, on and off for the last 40 years or so. But she definitely had a big sort of impact on me becoming a poet as well. Not as cool as Ginsberg, but come on. but really, yeah. I mean, really a real important person for me.
Yeah, I think I had read something that online, Robin, about Allen Ginsberg and you. Is there something you'd like to share about a moment between the two of you, or a piece of wisdom or that he gave you?
Yeah, there was one moment, and I actually wrote it's part of an essay that I wrote. There's one moment where so at the first class that he taught, at the end of the class, he asked if anyone was a typist and wanted to type for him. And I had been working as a typist as a job, and so I was a very fast typist. So I went down this big after class to him, and I said, I'm a typist. I can type for you, and I was very young and was able to say this, which I probably couldn't now. I said, I'll type for you if you read my poems in exchange.
Oh, Robin.
To this icon, I said, but I made a deal.
Great.
So he said, of course. So I would meet him every week in his apartment, and we'd sit at his kitchen table, and he would read my work. And one time Anne Waldman was there. There was always someone in the apartment, and she was sitting there, in the living room while we were sitting at the kitchen table, and he read one of my poems, and he loved one of the lines, and he read it out to Anne. And I felt like I had a new family. Like it was the family I'd always wanted, my caring dad and my somewhat jealous older sibling.
Aha.
So it was lovely. I love it.
Yeah, and you made me remember. Of course, there's other people too. The main person I think was again my high school homeroom teacher, but also as I got older in my teens, you find your family basically, right? You find the people who are interested in you. There was a private workshop in Rochester that was run by this woman named Patricia Janus, and it was the first workshop I was in, and she was an amazing workshop leader. I freely admit, I've been freely admitting over the years that I robbed all of her teaching techniques. right. But also that Srila Ray, a poet from India that came over to America to study at the Iowa workshop and then the University of Buffalo. Srila had a great influence, and not only that, she was one of my mentors. She actually moves into her house. Right. My wife, Sarah, and we had our first apartment in the basement of that house. So, I mean, you find your family. You find, if you're lucky, you find the people who are out there and see you for who you are and encourage that.
So was Rough Magic a family for you both?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would say that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't speak for everyone else in the band, but it felt that way to me. And you know, it was really just for 4.5 years, it was really an amazing adventure. It really was, and I'm really happy we all went on it. You know,
Was that the first time each of you had done a poetry music collaboration?
Together? Yes.
Or at all?
Oh, at all? Well, no. Yes, with us, yeah. But of course, yeah. I mean, kid of the '60s and '70s, right? Basically, where everyone was in a band, right? So I was in bands, on and off. But it really was the first time I actually I was fronting a band, right? So it was a, again, kind of a unique experience to actually be, the principal songwriter and singer in a band, as opposed to just being in a band with your buds, right? Right, just playing whatever you want. So yeah, I mean, that was for me, it was a very unique experience.
How about you, Robin?
Yeah, it was a first for me. I'd never been in a band before. It was, I just, I said to Cornelius one day, we should sing together, just thinking we'd sing together, and it turned into a band.
Well, it turned into a band thanks to Robin, to tell you the truth. And Robin is the unsung muse of a lot of the songs on Rough Magic, right? And also getting the band together, because I was actually putting together a project, a poetry music project called Book of Hooks. And I was getting tracks together and doing things like that and getting people to sign that. And that's how we started singing together. We're sort of like sending Robin tracks and we should sing on this. And we finally worked out some time to do that. But there came a moment when I was using GarageBand loops for things, and the guitarist that I was using for the project, the principal guitarist, was out doing a tour or something, and I needed a guitar, and I had a violin loop that was horrible. And I just thought, my God, this sucks. I want a real player. So I asked Robin, any guitarists, any guitar player or violinist, and she gave me a video of Charlie Rao and Conchetta Abate. And I was able to, get them in on a session, and then I was invited. I was invited to do a reading, and I turned it down, and then I changed my mind and came back and said, "Well, I'll do the reading if my band can play with me." And I didn't have a band when I said that, but I called it Charlie and Lisa and Robin, and then the bass player was her daughter, and we started working as a band.
Yeah, and I just want to say that the only reason I knew those musicians that I recommended to Cornelius is because of my daughter. They were friends of my daughter, so she gets
I know,
really
but you knew though, but you were there. You knew that when I had the question, so you're responsible. Anyway, but that's really how it got kicked off. And we really like playing together. I mean, really are having fun with it. It was a really nice adventure to have.
And you, and I'm going to ask you first, can you talk about the dynamics and your experience specifically of working poems into music, or working with the musicians in terms of who came up with what first? How did you have did you kind of throw a poem at them and say, here, what would you want to do with it? Or this is what I'd like you to do with it?
Are you asking me about
that? Yes, asking you. Yes. Oh,
well, it's all Cornelius. I mean, Cornelius would bring a song in, right? And then, bring it to the band and, give us the lyrics. So, and then my daughter was a musical director, and they would, sort of make an arrangement for us, an incredible arrangement. And then we just, try it out and rehearse it. So, Cornelius always brought the material in.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, sorry, Nina, go ahead.
If your daughter were here, Robin, what would she say about the challenge for her?
She's watching, right? I know that I could speak for her.
Be careful.
I think it's, I can't speak for her, but I think it's being a manager of a band is not easy of a group of people, and she did an incredible job.
I have to agree with that.
It's hard to like manage, different people who have different aesthetics and different personalities, and she did an amazing job of
yes
getting everyone together and keeping us focused, and she has an amazing ear and just an incredible musician. So
yeah, she was perfect for the job. She really was, and I'm glad she was up for it. I don't think it would have worked without Emma, to tell you the truth. Having her in the band, being able to be that person that they respected, and also and trusted. I think that was a really good thing about Emma being in the band. But talking about material, I mean, again, yes, sometimes I'd come aside, but sometimes Robin would come in and give me an idea, right? Right. I mean, there's lots of things that simply because we had a conversation together, right? And I'd come up with something and go, oh my God, I gotta go and write that, or she would suggest something. There's a couple of songs, more than a couple of songs, where Robin would simply say, send me an article or something, right? And I'd simply go, oh my God, and I start writing something with that, and we go off. And Robin wrote her own songs too. There was a great song called Mama Mercy, which was, I think, is one of the best songs we ever did as a band. Just just an amazing composition, I thought. Which, and of course, she's such a great singer, right? I think one of the great things that one of the pleasures of being in that band was singing with Robin, because we really, our voices really were a good blend, and it was really just a lot of fun to do that. Yeah.
I just forgot what I was going to ask you, Robin. But do you want to? Oh, yeah, I know what I was going to ask you. Were you now? There was one. Was one of the songs that we played written by you, Robin?
No, they're both Cornelius' song. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know, Cornelius, if you were talking about one of hers in particular, because you and I had exchanged something on it, but
well, one of the songs we didn't play, but is "Living with a Stranger," right? And that's about their body just starting to act weird, and you're getting old and stuff like that. Well, that's a conversation between me and Robin, right? And we started talking about, she had a friend that was getting ill or something. There was something conversation I had with her, and during that conversation, I started thinking, oh yeah, wow, and started putting the song together. Right? There's another song that you didn't hear called about John about the first legal slave in America, John Punch, and I got that from Robin. Robin, sent me this article, simply saying, "Oh my God, this is great." He's supposedly genetically connected to Obama. So you have the situation on Obama's mother's side. So you have the first slave and the first Black American president on the same bloodline. Isn't that wild? I was thinking, what could be more American than that, right? But that's what it was. I mean, so you start to get an idea. I get really just, I'd write something up and work it up we'd work it up. And that was pretty much the process. And who did what? Well, it was a group effort, right? It isn't just one person particularly doing that. They all had wonderful. Charlie Rao is a great guitarist. Conchetta is also, and they all have their own lives as musicians. They all do their own jobs as musicians. They play with groups. They do their own projects. So there's a sense of tuning and arranging and dealing with language. And maybe the best way of thinking about that is that they all had I think they all had the ability to deal with text, right, in a way that would be really useful to the text.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
would the two of you, would you have the melody?
Yeah.
And the poem or the lyric?
Yeah, by the time I brought it to the band, it was pretty much a demo, right? Basically,
Okay.
structure was there, but the arrangement was up to the band, right? And we very rarely kept to the arrangement that I brought them. But they knew the basic shape of what the song was going to be.
How about for you, Robin?
What is
How
the
about for you? You wrote a couple of pieces.
I think just one tune that we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that? Did you bring it in the form of a poem, or did you bring it with a melody?
No, it wasn't a poem. I wrote it as a song with lyrics.
Okay.
It was never meant to be a poem. Yeah, and I just brought it in and sang it. Yeah.
All right. I want to ask you something totally making a turn toward the just towards poetry, but also well, I'll just go for it. Robin, you did these two poems that were kind of back to back, and I don't know if you'd call them mirror poems or whatever, but you used the word parts and in relation to trauma. And Bill and I are both psychotherapists, and part of the part of our world is thinking in terms of parts and the mosaic mind that Dick Schwartz kind of conceptualized that. Is that where were you drawing from some of that?
Yes. I have been very influenced by internal family systems, IFS, and Dick Schwartz. Yes. So those poems did come out of that. Yeah.
Do you want to share a little bit about what you were trying to represent, not in terms of personal trauma, but in terms of that idea of the parts in your poems?
Well, the whole theory is about that we're all made up of parts, and that when someone is traumatized, those parts get exiled. You kind of dissociate from parts of you that are just too unbearable, too burdened. And so there's a split that happens in a person, right? And part of this internal family systems therapy, part of that journey is to try and integrate those parts again into the system of a person, of a being. And so that was what I was trying to do with those poems, is like have those dissociated parts, those exiled parts, speak and tell their stories, and then to speak again when they've been back and integrated into the system and heard and come to new understandings. And yeah.
So were you I can't remember which one you were talking about, which part, but were you doing two parts there, or were you doing the part and the what do you call it?
Self.
Yes.
Well, the you in the poems is talking to the self of the person, the you in the poem, right? Yeah, and that particular part was a part that was starving, that was anorexic and starved herself. Yeah.
So those were both persona poems, right? So in your experience of writing it, did it move you forward emotionally? And maybe another question too would be, what did the self do with what it was hearing from the starving parts?
I think wrote these poems.
The self did, or the
yeah, I mean the self. Oh, I don't know. It's all a mystery, really. Like the poems, came to me to be written. I'm not sure, which part is what, but there's no, the thing that I think is important to say, there's no end point, where then everything's solved.
But there's a very kind of a close relationship between, say, in a persona poem, well, in doing the internal family systems work, you want to give voice to those parts, which just kind of dovetails perfectly with writing a persona poem in the voice of that part. Any reflections on that?
I found it really inspiring to do, and there's a whole bunch of them in this manuscript, the whole middle section, to give voice to these different parts, and because most of those parts have been silenced, right? And so I don't want to say it was healing, but it was an important journey for me that I've really appreciated to hear those voices. Yeah.
I was doing a workshop on persona poetry at the Jung Center here in Chicago. And I was having people do like poems of address to, whether it was from a part or to a part. And those two things come together so naturally. And sometimes it really helps to give people the assignment of writing from that voice, because then you hear some things that you might not otherwise hear.
It's a channeling. It's definitely a channeling. Yeah.
Any, let me just see where we are time-wise. We can run over a little bit. I want to ask each of you, without exposing too much about the other person, what is one thing you would want the audience to know about each other that you think that would assist us in appreciating something about, enriching your knowledge of them? I'm looking at your face, Cornelius.
Okay, Robin.
Yeah, I could say so many things about Cornelius. The first thing that comes to mind is what a generous person Cornelius is, and what a cheerleader he is for so many people, including me. Just really, really generous. And I don't, Cave Canem is the largest generosity that we all benefit from. But he's also personally generous too.
Generosity is a quality in artists, performers that, God, when I see it, it's just a treasure. It's just such a gift, which is what generosity is all about. But that's a wonderful thing to highlight, Robin. And you, Cornelius, something that you'd want people to be able to appreciate about Robin.
Well, you haven't seen Robin, through the poems and through this conversation, you're never going to get her. That's right. She's what you're seeing here, right? She's absolutely authentic. And I just think she's one of those people, one of the few people in my life that I actually think are absolutely an authentic human being. And a joy, brave. It just, really, I feel so lucky to have her as a friend. It's just one of those things where I just think, my God, lucky me. I have Robin Mensing as a friend. She, like I said, she's one of those people where you sort of like, you meet her and you simply just, well, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone. I can speak for myself. I'm saying that, but there's a calmness in her, a center in her, which is really I think, just remarkable. She probably doesn't think that way. You know?
Well, that's funny.
But it's there.
I actually was hoping you would share something that was a little bit of a secret, but not totally. Bill has unpinned us, and
okay.
So I can't see you, but now is the time that Al and I say goodnight to people. God, you guys were a pleasure. Cornelius Eady, Robin Messing, and it was a really great open mic. Just great. Al?
Well, can't add to great. I mean, it was really probably one of the best we've had. So reading wise and conversation wise. So thank you both, Cornelius and Robin. Really, really enjoyed it. Wish we could be sitting around a table at a bar or a restaurant and just go on for a while and converse where everybody else did.
Bring our guitars.
Yeah. That's always fun. So, and I want to thank all the open micers for being here. Brenda Cardenas is, I didn't mention before, will be the featured writer in the next issue of After Hours, which shows up at Printers Row. So all our Chicago friends, hopefully we'll see you at Printers Row, which is coming up in a very short time before the next Traveling Mollies. So stop by the After Hours table and check out Brenda there. And hope to see you all again next month. Nina, who is our feature next month? I have to defer to
next time it's Michael Anania and Cynthia Manick.
Great. Okay, well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful.
Thanks for inviting us.
Good night.
Bye, Robin.
Bye, Cornelius.
Good night.